As part of its September 23rd passage of H.R. 4350, the 1,300-page so-called National Defense Authorization Act, the House of Representatives voted 316 to 113 in favor of the anti-constitutional red flag gun seizure concept promoted by both Joe Biden and Donald Trump, although there are some reports that Donald Trump might have reconsidered his earlier position. Now, this provision applies to active military and even to many who have already completed their stints in the armed forces, many of them carrying and caring for weapons ostensibly to defend the very same Constitution on which the majority in the House just spat. Hi everyone, I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRC-TV. Here's the story. R. Hawkins reports for Breitbart, quote, "The provision for prohibiting gun possession is contained in Section 529 of the NDAA. That section is titled Authority of Military Judges and Military Magistrates to Issue Military Court Protection Orders. The specific provision gives military courts the authority to prohibit gun possession via protective orders in two ways. One, by giving the subject of the order an opportunity to be heard on the order, and two, by issuing the order ex parte. Complete lawlessness," writes Liz George for American Military News. Quote, "A military court protective order issued on an ex parte basis shall restrain a person from possessing, receiving, or otherwise accessing a firearm, and a military court protective order issued after the person to be subject to the order has received notice and opportunity to be heard on the order shall restrain such person from possessing, receiving, or otherwise accessing a firearm in accordance with Section 922 of Title 18, Section 529 of H.R. 4350 states." Continues Hawkins, quote, "Within 72 hours of issuance, the order is to be delivered to the Attorney General of the United States and the Attorney General of the state or territory in which the order is issued," end quote. And adds George, quote, "Additionally, military court protective orders issued on an emergency basis are exempted from providing the recipient with the standard right to due process. Instead, notice and opportunity to be heard must only be provided after an order was already issued," end quote. The veneer of the military court is unwarranted, and any attempt to breach the Constitution by turning to a military court system is contrary to the very existence of the U.S. military itself, since the military only exists because of the U.S. Constitution, and the Constitution always holds sway. That means that this provision of the NDAA violates the Second Amendment, forbidding Congress and any level of government in the U.S. from passing any statute that infringes on the right to keep and bear arms. It violates the Fourth Amendment, prohibition against unwarranted searches and seizures. It violates the Fifth Amendment, prohibition against seizure of freedom, life, or property without due process of law. It violates the Sixth Amendment, assurance of a fair and speedy trial before a public jury. It violates the Eighth Amendment, prohibition of cruel and unusual punishment, because of course, how can someone be punished with property seizure if he has not had a trial or been accused of a crime? And of course, it violates the spirit of the 14th Amendment reiteration of the right to due process that we saw earlier in the Fifth Amendment. And get this, 135 Republican members of Congress actually voted in favor of the NDAA, even with this provision, and a provision that allows for military conscription of women. You can read my piece on that at MRC-TV. The idea of this happening on a state or federally dictated basis appears to be just fine with a lot of people in D.C. Unbelievable, just incredible. You know, folks, These types of things don't stop, and they will not stop until people start to recognize the inherent rights we have. They're not created by government. They are born into us. They are part of our creation. And no politician and no commentator can take them away, regardless of their rhetoric. It's time for us to speak back. Offer your comments on YouTube. I will see you there in the comments section. Please like and subscribe. And also, if you get the opportunity, head over to Rumble, because Rumble is a great site that doesn't censor us. We'll see you on Facebook. We'll see you on Twitter. We'll see you on Instagram and TikTok. I'm at Gab at Gardner Goldsmith. Yes, Gardner Goldsmith on Gab and at Gard Goldsmith on Twitter. And of course, please visit us all the time at MRCTV.org. MRCTV.org. For MRC TV. I'm Gardner Goldsmith.